Hi, Nancy. How are you? It's so good to see you again.
Hilda, good afternoon. It is so lovely to see you too and
I
to
know.
have a conversation with you.
Same,
It's
same. I've been looking forward to this call because I know our last Instagram live went really well. You talked about so many great things. I wanted to make sure we get on again and just talk through a little bit more about the services that you guys provide over at the Accessory think tank. So, just officially for everyone that's watching this, my name is Hilda Yan. I'm the product development consultant here at Makers Row, and I have the pleasure of speaking with Nancy Forman, the founder of the Accessory think tank. We're both based in New York City, but we've never met in person, and we're gonna aim for that. We have to have some cocktails one of these
we
days.
must.
I know. So what we're going to talk about today is really product development for 2021 and beyond, because there's been so many changes over the last 18 months or so. And I'd love
Mhm.
to hear your take from just all the clients you're working with and what you're seeing out in the real world with PD and what brands can consider as they're thinking about starting product development. I'd love for you to just give everyone a quick intro as to what the Accessory think tank does so they know kind of a little context about you guys.
Sure, absolutely. And again, thank you so much. And it's really a pleasure. Appreciate Baker's Row so much and such a vital, important part of support for so many brands and manufacturers and service providers. My company is, as you said, it's called the Accessory Think Tank, and it has evolved and grown and changed for the better over the course of its existence. I've been partnering, I like to think of that word versus, in a sense, consulting with brands for close to 15 years, which is unbelievable how time flies.
Yeah.
So very broad perspective of looking at um, the evolution of our industry from development to changes in physical retail to DTC, which is quite exciting. And then prior to that, I was with Bloomingdale's for 14 years. So my approach on development really comes first and foremost from the initial part of my career where I was trained as a merchant,
Mhm.
um, really given me um, what I believe is a unique perspective on the ability to um, look at the marketplace from both the perspective as a merchant and then also in product development with a support to a client, which is really important when one is looking to create and develop brands, is really identifying very clearly their place in
Mhm.
the industry and what the why how to create a very strong point of view.
Absolutely. I love that you have the background of the merchant and the buyer side, because the challenge for many brands these days is you can do competitive research, but you really also need to know uh, how to really look at your collection from a merchandising strategy. I mean, there are tons of people that go and get a degree in merchandising, but they might never touch upon product development and know how hard it is to go through
Mm,
product development. So your company really kind of bridges that gap of not just providing product development resources, but really looking at the whole thing from start to finish of like, do you have a strong logo? Do you have a strong brand identity? And that's actually why I send a lot of brands your way, because I think you do that so well and you're so warm and welcoming. And also, everyone on your team is the same. So I'm so excited to have this conversation with you just to dig into product development and how brands can kind of look at all of those things during product development. So I'd love for you to take us through what you've been working on and how you've been approaching it lately.
absolutely. As we think and discuss the topic of the future and are well aware of the changes in regards to consumer um, behavior and lifestyle over this past year, and how that was really an acceleration of what was happening in a sense within fashion, focused on comfort and casual and a little bit minimalist. Uh, what what we've seen is that um, and sort of paying attention to, and we can actually feel it. I'm sure you can as well as being in the industry, that there will be a sense of somewhat more conservative celebration through self-expression. that we can see in what we're looking at when we're looking at forecasting and or material choices for new seasons. That being said, just because a trend is a trend or there's new direction in color, ultimately the most important thing with each individual brand, as I mentioned before, is to really craft a point of view in product development, a point of view in brand voice and ideation that comes from product development. It really comes together. So the brand ideation supports how we create product and vice versa. In regards to go forward, in addition to the high level ideas of going out and celebrating to some extent, really my focus with many brands is looking at and identifying manufacturing partners who are willing to work with us in a very measured, slow way, whereby also the startup costs for that development allow the client and brand to be able to balance their investment amongst many arms. So as an example, in regards to jewelry, okay, jewelry, especially demi-fine jewelry, which really means affordable investment, sterling silver, and or little bit elements of diamonds, lab-grown diamonds. We've really focused for 2021 on the sustainability of the metals. So we are now working with recycled silver and recycled gold. And then that then means that for vermeil, which is recycled over silver with a certain number of microns, all recycled. We're also focusing, yes, very, very, very exciting. Additionally, focusing on studying and looking at the step into lab-grown diamonds and looking at, doesn't then mean recycled gold, recycled silver, and lab-grown diamonds goes into every jewelry client that I work with, right? I have clients who are working specifically with, resin and wood. I mean, there's so much diversity. So we still look at that in the same way in regards to with resin. Our client has her development in Italy, working with top factories in the world who focus on creating ways to minimize, waste or emissions. So that being said, the focus with from a manufacturing perspective is continuing to build relationships with each manufacturer and also be really, really clear in regards to the development. I absolutely feel that today a client and any brand really needs to put forth a visual assortment plan where they can see and lay everything out in order to make sure that the collection is really well balanced, is defined by key items, which drive the business, and also really understand and design how to create that true emotional, I say this always, to take your brand and to create a Rolls Royce, which is full of storytelling and emotion and product that then allows to be visually exciting and to drive conversation that then helps to drive business to the brands. So that's
so much.
In regards also within jewelry, just a little bit more of a touch on some aspects in regards to sustainability, really looking at sustainable goals that come out of standards set by each industry and ensuring that the partners that the clients are working with are also committed to those goals, whether it's who's literally mining the diamonds, if we're using real diamonds, or the semi-precious, and what that manufacturer's commitment is also to sustainability and partnerships with their own working conditions. Really, so that's part of 2021 in regards to, I'm not going to minimize that product development is easy. For me, it
no, it's not.
really is, easier said than done. Some categories of business are much easier to get into than others, i.e. footwear versus a hair accessory. But point is thinking forward in regards to looking at ways to make development choices that also can align with the betterment of people and the environment.
That makes so much sense because, just going back to what you were saying about choosing the right partners in, development and manufacturing, and really working with people that can balance the need of product development, the products, but also the budget that a brand has to spend on everything that they need, right? And when you only spend, maybe, or you primarily spend on product development, then you kind of have to be a little bit more selective in other areas. But if you're really smart from the start of finding a really great supplier that understands your long-term plan and is also there to go through that process with you and offer you solutions that are really going to help you make good choices, then that's a beautiful relationship. And to do that is very challenging sometimes if you're a new brand. So when brands come to you, I think what is great is that you already have established relationships with a lot of these types of suppliers, or you've done the legwork to find them. So it makes it a little bit easier for brands to have connections to these suppliers. Right?
Share that the relationships that have been developed become the client's relationship, because it is about really each manufacturer understanding very clearly the goals of the brand. I'm not a middleman. About enhancement and growth for each client and brand. So just wanted to reinforce that.
That makes total sense. So what other categories have you been working on that have been really interesting for this year?
I would share that I had been less focused in the past year on handbags. Although I have a very strong portfolio within the handbag category, there has been so much more focus and growth on textiles, decorative home, hair accessories, footwear focused on sneakers. So I'm quite excited as I'm stepping back in on developing a really, really exceptionally fantastic men's brand using all recycled nylons, recycled ripstops, recycled zippers. Additionally, complete transformation of print and pattern, custom colors with an MOQ of 5 meters. So, with the hopes, of course, that the business grows to much more. And I don't want to mislead the feedback that every material that I work with can one enter with such a small amount, but that is also the beauty of our level of sourcing and partnership with the actual companies who put faith and trust in us, and who also show me new selections of materials early before many of the bigger brands. So I then also will ask for XYZ, where he'll show me an article and I'll say, you're missing an opportunity over here. So I'm actually giving direction on product development with materials, which also allow me to help to define a point of view of uniqueness for specific clients.
I like it a lot because I visited, many fabric suppliers and leather suppliers in the past, and they always come up with a new collection, but it's not always so informed in the sense of what it is that, people are really looking for, or do they often even get feedback, right? Most of the time it's as a brand, I'm just selecting what I like, but I don't go back and say to them, oh, I wish you had XYZ. So I love that you're also providing the feedback up the chain as well as down the chain. So that's great.
Yeah, and also it's really important because with each brand, there's such a partnership in brand, true creative direction, merchandising, design details, shapes, manufacturing, that every client has the opportunity, especially new brands, to be able to have the opportunity to look at the entire, not the entire industry, but the competitive industry by resource, by trend, by category. So one is really aware of what is occurring, where there are opportunities, how to make smart choices, and come with something compellingly well thought out and also relevant and unique, allows for even more success, not just with product, but in true brand voice, right? So that's my thought on some of the newness within handbags. There's really two schools of thought in regards to non-leather or nylons and PETA approved vegan. I work with PETA approved vegan as well as leather. I mean, there's value to leather. There's leather that is tanned responsibly with dyes that are environmentally friendly. So it's just about finding the right fit for one's brand.
So with bags, it's been an interesting time, right? Because a lot of people are not needing to travel or going out as often. So I think that when, kind of the world reopens in a way, people are going to be looking for different types of bags even, right? Because, traditionally you might be looking for something that's very fashion forward. Maybe in the future it'll be very functional forward, or you have now a better idea of what it is you really want and how you want to also purchase and make those decisions about certain products and like how that affects everything else in the world. So I love that so much. So what else is going on besides jewelry and bags then?
Jewelry and bags, doing some, I've been quite focused on, wanted to share actually the baby industry, studying the market, and again, looking at it's a very broad industry with so many players, and looking again at the successes of brands who are really paying attention to fabrications, working with companies that are GRS certified. Are their fabrications GOT certified? Again, all of these aspects of finding the best of in the supply chain, and understanding how to take that information. What does GOT certified mean to a consumer as I communicate in my brand voice, is an opportunity. Another category that I was very inspired by in 2015 was the industry. In 2015, it was 78 billion. Did a lot of studies.
I'm sorry, I think I lost you for a little bit. Which industry?
Sure. The pet industry.
Oh, pet industry. Okay.
So, I study so many, we do a lot of internal analysis and studying of the market, and, recognizing, we all understand.
Uh-oh. I think we might be losing Nancy, or maybe it's my internet. But let's give her a moment to come back. So, let's see. Okay, I lost you for a little bit, probably my Wi-Fi. But we were talking about pet industry. So I'd love to learn a little bit more about what's going on there, because I know tons of people are getting pets.
The incredible pet industry, which I have been studying as a professional in really looking at the competitive landscape and design ideation since about 2014. And with that, really have watched the growth of the industry. In 2020, it was 96 billion.
Wow.
And the projection, I think, is by 2024, 125 billion. So when one looks at a category of business whereby there could be an opportunity either for brand extension within one's brand, and it has to make sense, and there has to be a thought process as to how, it is a very exciting category. I would say that, in looking at the assortments within more premium brands, one can see that the more contemporary premium brands are understanding exactly the same strategy in regards to material choice, brand ideation, visual identity, and how to expand product categories. I've developed almost all of the categories within pet accessories: bowls, beds, leashes, collars, harnesses, and more. I've even developed a trademarked solution, first ever, that didn't exist. That's had a really incredible receptivity. So again, a very, very unique approach to looking at a industry, and or how to create a brand extension. It's really, really exciting.
Yeah, that makes so much sense because,
Mhm.
I think a lot of us will walk into a store, like maybe even a pet supply store, and it's not the most exciting, if you were to walk into one of those stores. But then when you go online, there are so many options.
Mhm.
I wouldn't even know where to start to go
Mhm.
my search. I personally been, lucky enough to speak to several brands recently that have already been producing pet products and
Mhm.
want to expand beyond what they're doing today. And it's so different than what I personally have been seeing in the stores. I also haven't had like a dog in a really long time. But occasionally I still go into the pet stores and look at the look at the puppies. But long story short, I think that category in itself is such a huge category. It's kind of like the baby category. There's certain categories people really love to spend money on, love to buy additional accessories. So I'm excited to see what comes out for pet in the coming
And
years.
and in mentioning, a category that might not particularly relate to a brand's immediate assortment strategy, there are very strategic and creative ways to be able to figure out how to plan out an evolution of brand extension
Mhm.
to another category and have it make sense. Example, jewelry brand, right? We're talking about sustainability, recycled, partnerships of manufacturing. And then one thinks about the fact that dogs wear dog tags,
Yeah.
right? So I developed last year a concept just during COVID. I just said, I want to take dog breeds and have my technical designer, I'll give her the pictures, create dog photography through enamel with customization. So it's just something that I did to see if it would work. And when you think about a jewelry brand that may be stepping into enamel,
Mhm.
and then the dog enamel photography is very, very detailed. It's very customized. So I thought, try it for my dogs. The point being is, if I was a jewelry designer and I had an idea to evolve, obviously one can go from jewelry to hair accessories to handbags to soft accessories, yet to think about how could I go to market and have a different strategy than my competition, and if that's something that I really believe in regards to the pet industry, and then go from jewelry to dog tags to this to that, and then it makes sense. So you have to really understand different creative ways to do so. Same thing with baby.
It's so
Same thing with baby.
like the mommy and me
Mhm.
ideas, and now the whole family matching situation. Of course, the family pajamas is super popular, but other things beyond that, right? You don't always want to just wear matching clothing, but let's say I have a boy and a girl. I want to get them, if we're going to do any family photos, not exactly dressed the same way, but it would be fun if there were some accessories or something tying us all together. And so I love the idea that you're bridging, from one category over to other parts of life. That makes
Well, because
it's so
it
much makes so much sense.
it also talks, I often talk to the clients, and again, it's easier said than it's done, but it is doable.
Mhm.
And some categories of business are much easier to get into than others. right? And part of that is a combination of finding the right manufacturing partner and understanding what the costs are for an item, a tech pack, a one design, and what the minimum order quantity is. And all of those things need to be clear as best one can in advance in order to make the right decisions in regards to how much can I, how much do I need to create in order to create a compelling strategy? And then also remembering it's not just what you make, it's what you spend, right? So keeping that in mind. And, for the most part, I don't want to say we've got that down to science, right? Because everything is unique and there's always a blip, especially with COVID.
Yes.
Or where, even manufacturing partners that were superb, unbelievable, a dream come true. The reality is in India right now, unfortunately, COVID is increasing every day at a rate that's more extreme than what it is when we were at our height. So it's also thinking about if that is an issue, and my production is going to slow down, then where am I going to, make a strategic, thoughtful, instead of just it's I've got to stop, everything's over, is take your strengths, look at where you have opportunities, think about potentially accelerating an ideation or a strategy in a category that you were going to put a hold on, and that we know from, I've learned that from really, thinking about maximizing opportunities and softening challenges from Bloomingdale's all the years ago. That was very beneficial. So
I think that's one of your strengths that I admire the most, because you come from it from such an interesting point of view, like things I would never think about, honestly. I just that's just not the way my brain works. So I would imagine that if a brand is speaking to you, it's kind of like those aha moments that seem so obvious, but it's not always that obvious that, like, if you're a jewelry brand, you can also develop a line of products for dogs and pets, and that it's the same manufacturing processes and same development process, but just looking at it from a different perspective and doing the development, maybe, parallel development while you're launching your jewelry line, and then maybe coming in with this pet line a little bit later. If the enamel pieces work for your jewelry line, then hopefully that success carries over to the pet line. And it's so smart, right? Because you're utilizing what you've learned to expand your merch category, and you're giving more business to the partner you chose. And so everybody's like, it's a great value for everyone. And now suddenly that jewelry manufacturer might go, oh, I didn't even think to expand into pet. And now they have more opportunities and everyone's just happier. And that's really how you create these great relationships with manufacturers and brands. And one other thing that I'd love to dig in with you, like on another call, is really just how to manage relationships during development, because that is also so key. But I feel like that needs its own dedicated conversation. So
I did want to say one thing in regard to just some thoughts on, just like you, as such an incredible part of Makers Row and what Matthew has created as a company. I would say in regards to the success that I'm able to provide is, when you talk about relationships, made me think of just the incredible relationships that I have within my organization with other service providers, i.e., what I think to be intrinsically true entrepreneurs who dig in and really partner and are willing to hear what my clients and I have developed, and work with us to really say, okay, I'm gonna roll up my sleeves and really listen to what you're saying about brand ideation and brand voice in regards to logo and website and SEO, all of it. So I'm very fortunate that I have found great entrepreneurial partners in other sectors of the business that my clients have then also worked with. So I've gotten the feedback from the clients as well, which then goes to other clients. So you really know who you're working with in all the parts of the business. So
Yes.
sometimes, but that being said, with anything else, sometimes, someone that works beautifully with 80%, there could be one client here or there where it just isn't a good fit.
Mhm.
And that's okay. The client needs to recognize that that's not, or the client has, really needs to also like get a little bit of like learning about our industry, because our industry sometimes it's not mathematical and it's not science, even though and so
Yes.
so often, that would be that's a whole nother topic in regards to resilience planning.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's a long road, and finding the right people, or at least people that you have a great vibe with, is so helpful. And also you have to be truthful in the whole process, and also trust that it is a process and it takes time. So with product development, I think you point out so many great things. And, we'll see if anyone has comments or feedback or questions for you. I'd love to address those
Sure.
as well, and just give everyone a chance to digest everything you just shared with us. So again, Nancy, thank you so much for your time today. I value your time so much, and also all of your knowledge. So I appreciate
Thank you, Hilda, and right back at you. I
it.
really appreciate you and what the insights that you're bringing to a community and an industry that I think is one of the most exciting and rewarding. So
I've always loved product from a very young age, and I still love it. And I really enjoy working with brands that are excited to start this process. So
we're lucky to meet you.
you're so kind. Well, with Makers World, that's what we're here for. So hopefully people feel comfortable enough to reach out and ask questions, because that's what, our goal is.
If anybody has a question, I'm available to connect and answer. No problem.
Beautiful. Thank you again, Nancy.
Thank you. Speak to you very, very soon.
Bye.
Bye, Hilda.